Hey everyone, welcome to episode 29 of the Ceres podcast. Today's guest is Adam Stokes. Adam is the co-owner of Adam's Restaurant and the Oyster Club in Birmingham with his wife Natasha. Adam is a really interesting chap. He was open, honest. He's also pretty private and likes to keep his head down and focus on the restaurants. All of his attention is on making the restaurants better, one step at a time. As you'll hear in this episode, their restaurants are collecting lots of awards, but customers absolutely adore the restaurants, and to Adam and Natasha, the customer experience always comes first. As it's pretty relevant, I would like to congratulate Adam and the team for retaining one Michelin Star at Adam's and gaining a plate recognition for the Oyster Club. The Ceres podcast is brought to you by Ceres Pure Food Innovation, and to find out more, visit www.worldofceres.com. Adam, welcome to the Ceres podcast. For many that don't know you, you are the co-owner of Adam's Restaurant and the Oyster Club based in Birmingham with your wife Natasha. I read online that your goal is not to baffle but to excite and enthuse guests. You have one Michelin Star, 3 AA Rosettes, 7 out of 10 in the Waitrose Good Food Guide, and a pretty impeccable 2,608 reviews on TripAdvisor that are mostly 5-star ratings. And one thing that impressed me is when researching you for the podcast, there wasn't actually a lot about you anywhere. So are you the type of chef that just likes to knuckle down, keep the head down?
Yeah, definitely. I always wanted to be a chef. I always wanted to cook in a kitchen. The natural then progression was to open my own restaurant, which I've been very lucky and fortunate to be able to do. And yes, you know, I'm not after the fame side of the industry. I really enjoy running. I say we've got 2 restaurants now. Alongside with my wife, we've enjoyed opening them, designing them, and getting them to fruition. Obviously, we had Adam's Part 1, the little pop-up, for nearly 3 years, and then the second, the proper Adam's. Obviously now with the Oyster Club as well. So I just love the industry. I love the changes and everything that a restaurant causes issues, excitement. Every day there's something new.
It's a lot of chaos and order all day long, isn't it? It's just a lot going on. But what a lot of people probably don't know is that Adam's version 1, I call it version 1, that was always meant to be a pop-up, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
And how long did that sort of exist?
It was nearly 3 years. So I was up in Scotland, and we started looking for the restaurant. Got in touch with the council. They put us onto some building owners, and then we started looking at some larger locations to do it properly first time. But we found the location that we were after wasn't available. Plus, also being in Scotland as well, it was hard to be down here too often, and we needed to maintain an income as well. Yeah. And so the place we wanted wasn't available, and under the same hatters, the same ownership, we opened up a little pop-up, which, looking back on it, I'm really pleased that we did. The investment was small, so it was manageable for us, and it really gave us a sort of taste of Birmingham to see what sort of style that Birmingham needed and wanted, and also the progression. We're a 25-seat restaurant now at Adam's. We're between 50 and 60 with different areas, private dining room, chef's table, etc. So it was a really nice development, and so it wasn't like we were opening up a large restaurant that's going to sit empty. Yeah, we had a tough start at Bennett's Hill. It was a 25-seat restaurant, and it was very hard and quiet at the beginning. Yeah. But again, we kept our heads down, and we.
How long did it take for that to sort of turn around, do you think?
We won a Michelin Star within 5 months,
Yeah.
which was great. And that's, after about sort of 6 months, we were full all the time.
Yeah.
And it became a really good, a consistent restaurant as well. A lot to do with restaurants. You've got the food and the service, but also there's the buzz. It's the atmosphere. And we found, even though the fit out was not luxurious, it was a pop-up style restaurant. We found that it was buzzy. You know, it was always full of 24 people, but it was always full. So everyone came, and it was not a party environment, but it was always lively and a very
felt buzzing.
a comfortable place to sit and enjoy food.
And did you see a lot of those sort of customers transfer over to here? Like,
very much, yeah.
So they really got into Adams. They really liked it.
Definitely.
And how long was it? So it was 3 years. And were you looking, like, all that time? You're always looking for different sites.
I think the first year we wanted to get the restaurant going, and I'd say it was very, very hard. So the focus for that year was not looking for the next site. It was focusing on what we had in front of us. We then found that the style of restaurant that we wanted to produce with the second one didn't really fit with the location that we were originally looking at. So it was probably about 18 months into Adams version 1 that we started looking around. Now, we started viewing every single property, but we kept the catchment area really small. Like, we were looking in this area, but then we it's like, no, it's this street.
Yeah.
It literally is.
You're literally a road away, aren't you?
Yes, round the corner. Yes. And we were just focusing on this street because we wanted to be in the busy hub, the new sort of modern part of Birmingham. But we didn't want to be. First Adams was next to a pub. You know, on a Friday, Saturday night, we had a bouncer on the door. It was
gets a bit rowdy.
Opening night, a homeless guy came in and asked table 7 for a cigarette. You know, it was a rough, tough street. And I think a lot of people saw this guy from Birmingham. Saw this guy coming down from Scotland, opening up next to a pub on a busy street. Like, what is he doing? You know, and so we proved them wrong. We focused on what we needed to. Yeah. And obviously
Well, it's fair to say they probably don't think you're crazy anymore.
No, not
or maybe a different type of crazy. But so you was in Scotland at Glenap Castle, and then what was the sort of motivation for like wanting your own restaurant? Was that always your dream? Because obviously,
definitely. I think it's it is. You know, to have Adams is I'm very proud, very proud, and also to be able to give people a taste of what I think a dining experience is about. And I think dining's changing, and I think it's very much changing into a sort of style and an atmosphere that I really enjoy with both restaurants and Oyster Club as well. They're not stuffy. You know, the service. We're not a chain restaurant. Hi guys, it's not that, but it's just very approachable and very. We really push the front of house staff to talk to guests genuinely about other things as well. Just make the whole experience really nice and relaxed with the music as well, and no tablecloths, and it's not one specific thing. You can't just say, "I'll just take tablecloths and everything will be fine." It's not. It's a combination of everything. It also relays into the food as well. So it's just a very delicately balanced mix.
Would you say it's probably like a finer dining, but maybe for the new generation of people, maybe because some of the older generation do like the tablecloths. And
they do, of course. Yeah. Of course, I'm going to eat at the Ritz soon, actually, and obviously got to wear a jacket and tie, which is fabulous, and I'm really looking forward to it because it is what it is, and but the food and the service and the room, everything comes together and then demands that. But for normal, for a modern restaurant in Birmingham, look at the city. It's so diverse, and we've got a lot of people that we're going out to, and yeah, it's a balance. It's a very delicate balance.
When looking for a restaurant, what sort of other areas did you look at, and what made you sort of land on Birmingham?
We're not Brummies, but we're from the Midlands. So I was born in Northampton, grew up in Peterborough, wife's Leicester. So we're sort of migrating across. We did look at Manchester. We looked at London. We looked at rural pubs. We looked all over the place. And then we just started doing a bit more research into areas, looking at the trajectory of Birmingham and what was planned and who was planning to come to Birmingham. I just thought, you know what, this is the place to be. And there's there's a lot of growth here. There's a lot of money being invested from private and government council, and then from a personal point that we were, looking at London, and it's family a long way away.
Yeah.
So family are close enough to need them when they can come over and help with babysitting and stuff like that.
Because you've got a young family as well as two.
Yeah, 2 young boys, and excuse me, and but they're not going to drop in, so they and have a cup of tea and just knock on the door. Yeah. So it's a nice mix of location, and we're really pleased. Yeah. What we're nearly 6 years on, we're really, really satisfied with where we are.
I think Birmingham's one of those places that I think if you was from around here 10 years ago and you came back now, you'd be very surprised at how different it is in such a small window. I think there's a lot of I would say a lot of money, but there's a lot of hard workers around. Whether it's finance based or whatever it is. Not that they're the only hard workers, but for your customer base, there's probably a lot of key people in that respect, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I speak to a lot of people and say, where's your restaurant? Oh, it's in Birmingham. Oh, I haven't been to Birmingham for ages. And then when people do visit, the city looks very, very different. Yeah. Very different. I think there was a food reviewer recently who came up on the train from London, and they said that when they were travelling around Birmingham, it's full of scaffolding and cranes because it's just all everything's being developed and
there's a lot to be said about that, because in London I've recently probably noticed slightly the opposite, that it almost seems a bit slow and sluggish, and that a lot of properties are empty. And I was in Islington a few weeks ago, and it was just property after property. It was just, they were all empty. Whereas in Birmingham, it seems different. It's loud. It seems active. And there's always a lot of things going off. My wife's from Birmingham, and every time we come to Birmingham, she's like, "Wow, that's changed. That's changed. That's changed." She used to work at Lloyd's House, which isn't too far away, and it's just like everything's just changed around here. And there's a lot of tall buildings, which sort of indicates that a lot of offices are moving in. So I think it's moving from that industrial base, isn't it? But,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, obviously there's still the industrial stuff, but it's moved to the outskirts, and obviously with commuter routes as well. So it can. But no, fab city. Very happy.
And how's Oyster Club on Temple Street going? Because that's not too far away from here, is it? And again, it's just another walk, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. It's superb. I'm really pleased. I've got a massive passion for fish, and I know that fish hasn't been represented too much in Birmingham. I think because quite a lot of people have thought, we're in the centre of the country, but we've been getting fish in a Michelin Starred restaurant for 5 years before we even started thinking about the Oyster Club, and it's fantastic. It's really, really good quality. Yes, we're not by the coast, but neither's London in theory, and you got stacks of restaurants, stacks of fish and oyster restaurants in London. But no, it started up well. We're really happy with the product and the food, the service, the fit out. Its location is fabulous. So yeah, there's more work to be done, but no, it's.
How would you categorise the cuisine at both restaurants? Obviously, one is seafood. That's pretty self-explanatory. And how would you categorise the cuisine here? So
we're modern British. Yeah. A modern British restaurant.
Nice and easy.
I don't really like the word fine dining. We are a good quality modern British restaurant.
So you're not trying to box yourself in; you're just trying to keep it open to everybody, aren't you? Really?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the food styles will change, and the dishes will evolve, and some will have more Asian influences, and some will just be a really nice sort of homely sort of flavour, and some of the desserts will be different as well. So it's just a modern restaurant. People come here should expect fabulous plates of food. Made with 9 times out of 10, the main ingredient on the plate is always British.
Yeah.
Just a modern British restaurant.
So, do you ever see? Obviously, it's a big thing at the moment, but how do you sort of see food trends going? Like, obviously, if we look at sort of mass-produced food, vegan seems to be a really big thing, and then you've got celiac disease. And how do you sort of like see all that? And what do you guys do to sort of like to compensate for it, to work with it?
In regards to food trends, I think that there was a scientific era when Heston came onto the scene. There was a French era when the Roux brothers came over, and there've always been these sorts of styles. There's been a Nordic sort of push as well, and I delve into those sorts of styles, like we make a fluid gel out of gellan gum. It's a beautiful smooth puree. The flavour is incredible because of the process, and it is a scientific process where you have to heat it up to a certain degree, and you're there with little microscales with a 0.1 of a gram sort of stuff. But it's not, and I think that's where we're not here to baffle the customers. I don't tell all the front of house to say, oh, you've got to say that's a fluid gel. Yeah. No, it's not. It's it's a puree because it's a beautiful silky smooth puree. And then obviously Nordic, you got the foraging scene, so we take bits of that as well. So we're sort of utilising all the trends just to cook some really, really good quality food. All the food at Adams has familiar flavour marriages underlying it. Beef and horseradish was invented for a reason, or created or discovered for a reason. So there's always that sort of underlying food familiarity. Lamb and mint, yes, it's done in a modern way. Yes, it could have some science on the plate, or it could be an ingredient or a vegetable that you haven't seen before. But it's still got that fundamental sort of makeup of flavours that you put it in your mouth and go, yeah, that's really nice. That's really, really nice. And then you get something different and interesting on the plate. So
you're trying to stick to what's tried and tested, but also in a modern way.
Yes, very much so.
Because do you think to some degree that, again, not trying to sort of put the cat amongst the wolves or anything here, but do you think that sometimes some restaurants are quite they can jump on the fads a bit too much and get a bit
very
gimmicky?
Much so.
Yeah,
very much so. And that's not a problem. It's each their own. And I think that it's great that they're doing that, because then they've got their own style, and I've got my style, and I think you've got to. I think you've got to understand, like, say when hot jelly became a thing. There's some chefs that just put it on every single dish, whether it's a dessert or a starter. Everything had a hot jelly on it, and it's just like no. You've got to just take it on board. But also location. I've seen in a restaurant recently. It's in the middle of the country, massive kitchen garden, and the food's very natural, and that's fine. I'm in Birmingham. Yeah. I'm not going to be foraging in the canals in Birmingham. I'm not going to get. I'm not getting anything good out of there. No. I think a lot dictates.
So, in some ways, you've had to sort of adapt from, working in Scotland and Glenelg Castle, and then obviously Hambleton Hall. What would you see the key differences being in a city compared to those two very sort of like rural areas?
I think my food style is more of a modern city style. Hambleton was as a learning ground. There's some great chefs that have come out of Hambleton. I learned how to cook properly, and that sort of training. I spent 7 years there. I got trained very, very, very well. But the food was different to what I ultimately wanted to do. Aaron put so many ingredients on the plate. From someone learning, it's great because you're learning so much information about all these different things. then there was natural progression up to Glenap. So Hambleton was busy, and then Glenap was my first head chef's job. Much quieter, but the Hambleton style really suited part of Relais Chateau, as the Relais Chateau group. So my style fitted in beautifully from the start, and then all the sort of food experiences, the books that I was reading, where I was, where we were frequenting was much more of a city centre style food. There is such a thing, and then towards the end of my time at Glenap, the dishes were different. They were becoming more refined. They were, say, stylish. There were less things on the plate. There were, it was a product that we were quite confident would be able to sit in a city centre location.
Would you say essentially that after that sort of period of time, you just sort of found yourself almost, like, you felt confident in what you were doing?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. I felt, I was 26 when I started at Glenap. I thought I was ready. I knew I was ready to be a head chef. And then that first menu, that first week, that first 3 months, oh my God, it was one of the hardest times of my career. Everyone looked at you, everyone. The menu had to develop and change because of its location. It was quite a set menu, but it had to change every single day. And there were times I'd just finished lunch service, cooking for not many people, but finished lunch service and just turning around and they're like, "Well, we need the menu for tonight," and it's like, I just need some fish. I just need it. So that was a huge stepping stone.
What are the challenges of running a quieter restaurant? Because if I look at the industry I supply work in, running a quiet fish and chip shop is really difficult because the oils aren't being maintained. There's a lot of things you have to do to make that product brilliant. Whereas, what would you say? What analogies can you draw off the difference between a quiet restaurant? Would you say? Yeah,
it's very hard. And when I left Glenap to start up First Adams, my main goal and objective was to have a consistent restaurant. With a consistent restaurant, you've got at First Adams, 25 people walking in lunch and dinner, so it's 50 people a day. The menus are more or less sort of set with a few choices. So you can staff it appropriately. You can order appropriately, like you're saying. You clean the fries every single night. Whereas if you only cook for 4 people, you look at the frying. I think it'll last another day. It's that sort of thing. So in a consistent restaurant, everything runs a bit smoother. Ordering's difficult. The location in Scotland was really, really hard. Like, we only got fresh fish twice a week.
Oh, really? So you get more fresh fish here in Birmingham?
Yeah. But we were on the coast as well, and that's where that's where But we were an hour and a half south of Glasgow, so no one will drive to us. So we were a 2-day-a-week delivery. We then started leaning on a local guy, Eric, who used to go out on his boats. He was crabs and lobsters, so we used to get fresh crab on a Sunday, which then broke up the week and so on and so forth. So we just did the best that we could with what we had, but we never compromised at all. We never because that wasn't the business that we're in.
No.
And also knowledge of food as well, like langoustines as well. Langoustines are best when they've been frozen because it firms up the proteins.
Yeah.
So you get them in fresh, you freeze them for a day, then defrost them, and then they're ready to go. And they're actually a better product.
Oh, really?
Ate at a 2-star in London, Japanese sushi restaurant. All the fish is frozen. Everything's frozen.
Really?
I was eating tuna, like what I considered to be one of the best tuna dishes I've ever eaten. And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's frozen. It's all frozen."
Oh, really?
So I'm not a big advocate for frozen, and we don't freeze much. But times have changed, knowledge has changed.
Well, I'd say probably 90% of the fish and chip industry is using frozen at sea cod, frozen at sea haddock, and probably less so on the haddock side, but definitely on the cod, it's frozen at sea. It's from more sustainable waters, they say. It's frozen within 4 hours of catching. And it does give you a slightly different texture.
Yes,
that's not a negative,
Exactly.
if you defrost it properly, But it's just interesting because I don't know if you saw the story yesterday saying cod was off the menu. There was another story saying that fresh cod, it's essentially fresh cod story saying from the North Sea it's a bit of a problem. So but apparently the waters are absolutely decimated, so they've got to let them replenish over 7 or 8 years. But again, most fish and chip shops we're buying from, again, like probably Iceland, Norway, and but again, frozen. And I think people sort of like turn their nose up at the word frozen, don't they? Oh, it can't be good if it's frozen, But I was reading a story the other day about Marco Pierre White, and he used to put pig's feet in the freezer,
right?
But then if people knew then, I think a lot of people would have turned their nose up to the word frozen.
I say I think people's knowledge about and also how you freeze as well. I think and also you can protect foods, bring them and all. Yeah, I think it's a different time.
Well, especially when you're using it to actually make a better product. That's the difference. You're not doing it to sort of save it for weeks and weeks and months. You're just doing it to make the product better. So, what would you say was the biggest thing you sort of learned from those 2 restaurants before then doing your own?
I really developed my own style. At Hambleton, I was a sponge. I wanted to absorb. I didn't try to put dishes on the menu. That's not what I was there for. I was there to absorb and learn everything about. And Aaron as a cook, as a chef, I don't want to call it. He's fabulous, and so keen to teach and train and fabulous training there. And then moving on to Glen App, it was my time to develop my style. It was a quieter restaurant, which gave me time. As I was 26 and thought I was ready, and I was, but it was like climbing a rock face. But yeah, gave me the opportunity. So I had loads of interviews in London, really busy restaurants, and I do think that if I'd taken on one of those sort of jobs, I think I would have really struggled. But no, got on really well at Glen App, and it was a great platform.
So, although you're probably pretty proactive, and you tell people about provenance, do you think that customers do care about provenance in some ways? Do you think they really want to know where the duck's from, where the chicken's from, where? Do you think that customers want to know?
I think some do. I do think it's been a little bit of a fad, but for us, we have all the information. We're not going to flower up menus. We may label a duck, or we may put something very short on the menu, but we're not going to be telling you everything about everything on the menu.
Of course.
Then there's a lot of staff training that happens, because some people do want to know. So when someone turns around and goes, "Oh, can you tell me about the duck?" and then people can go into, "Oh yes, it's from Reg. It comes from Lancashire. It's reared like this. It's this old. It's this. It's this." So yeah, we have all that information ready to go for the people that do want to know. We just had a similar chat about the Oyster Club menu. We've stayed away from Cornish this, or labelling up the dishes or the certain fishes and areas and provenance, because people just expect everything to be good. You're not coming to the Oyster Club for a frozen fish and chips. You're coming for a top end fabulous product. Again, we have information, and oysters as well. Lots of oysters. The provenance of oysters is very, very important. So that's all there on an information card, if you want it. Again, but I think it's becoming less important, and also it depends where you are. Going back to previous statements about certain food trends in certain restaurants, like if you're in the middle of a countryside and a field and you've got like foraging items, and that's a great story. If the honey comes out from the beehive that you can see from table 4 as you sat there, then shout about it. That's incredible. Obviously Birmingham is slightly different. So
your goal essentially over provenance is always quality.
Yes.
So you're not going to shout about, oh, this is Cornish hake. unless they want to know. If they come and say to you, "Oh, where's the hake from?" "Oh, Cornwall."
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but otherwise it's hake.
Yeah, it's hake. It's fabulous. It hasn't been imported from Taiwan or anywhere like that. You know, it's the best possible hake. I'll always remember I spoke to AA years ago up in Scotland, and we were discussing what's local, and in AA's term, what's local is within the United Kingdom.
Okay, oh really?
Which is you know, if anything's, which I say it's their opinion, but yeah, we'll always source the best. Quality comes first, and obviously location comes second. You know, and there's no point in importing something from miles away because it's firstly it's more expensive. It's a bit like asparagus. You know, all this asparagus. The asparagus season is incredible, and you should indulge in it for the short, even though it's quite extended now, but for the few months it's available, keep on buying it. Everyone then moans about Peruvian asparagus. Well, if you're in Peru, I'm sure the asparagus is pretty good.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, and are they eating English asparagus throughout our season? You know, the price as soon as the English season finishes. The Peruvian asparagus is everywhere because obviously chefs have got it on their menus and they're like, oh God, oh no, it's finished. I need to change a dish. Oh, well, I'll just do a week of Peruvian or something like that. You know, which is not where we're, you know, not where we're at. But immediately the price of the asparagus goes up and the quality goes down, and it's you know eating the seasons and you know buying the best produce that you can. Without having all this transport cost.
How often would you sort of like go for a menu change?
Oh, daily sometimes.
Daily.
Yeah, it depends. In theory, the asparagus could not arrive through the door that morning, and then you've got a decision to make. So we don't. I've only ever done it once. We once had, and this is something when you learn. We changed from like a spring menu to a summer menu, and it was carnage in the kitchen. The guests obviously didn't know any different because they weren't there yesterday, so we're just cooking. So basically, you know, change every single dish on the menu on that one service. So chefs didn't know what they were doing. Front of house had only just got up to speed, and you know the level of information we'd given to given about the menu was basic compared to where we want to get to, and. We did one of the worst services of my life, and the food was, it's just like, oh yeah, we can do a bit better than that, boys, you know. So now, I just change every dish has its life. Sometimes a dish is more seasonal than others. Obviously, say Scottish rolls, fabulous this season. Dish goes on and then immediately comes off, no problem at all. But maybe like a chicken dish. Some of the ingredients have seasons, but it's less important. And then a dish has its life, whether it's bored of cooking it and dressing it. You've just seen it too often. You got to be careful because sometimes you know when a dish is right, it's right. It's a balance of flavors. It's a balance of senses and textures as well, and visual. And sometimes a dish is right, and when it's right, it can stay on the menu for quite a long time. And then you look at it and you go, "Oh, we really need to change that." And it'd be nice to change, but never forget about that dish, because the one you replace it with could be a little bit off for some. You know, it's not as good as that dish. Yeah. I'm not saying a dish is ever perfect, but it's pretty close. Yeah. And you've just got to remember that that setup, and you can see why some more traditional sort of style restaurants, soufflé Swiss at Gavroche, it's been on for years. Yeah. Because they love it. You know, that dish is right, and so and
people travel for that as well, don't they?
Yeah,
they
definitely.
Want it. So do you ever have a little notebook where you sort of like put a photo of this dish there and you're like, you know what, put a little note there, this is amazing, because you might remember it a few years later, or do you never forget that fast anyway? Like,
no, I forget all the good dishes.
Oh dear.
And I'm there going to the team, remember what we did 3 years ago, remember this, remember that, and I was like, I think it had spinach in, didn't it, or whatever, and then and then also guests as well. Guests say, can you do the beetroot meringues, we've and they've been on a dish recently, and sort of the menu's got to change. It's got to evolve.
Yeah.
It's got to keep on moving forward.
I think sometimes menus can change too fast as well. Like I think I went to a Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall restaurant in Bristol once, and he literally changes it. Well, not he does, but his team changes the menu twice a day. And you think, it's just like, you know, it's just like, I think then, like, yes, it's local and you're just putting on whatever's on the menu, which is, whatever's been sourced, but it's like, does that have a sort of like a penalty attached to it, that it's not going to be that good because you never had a lot of time to be creative?
Yeah, maybe. I think it's consistency, especially when you talk to Michelin.
Yeah.
They just want a consistent product, and also the guest as well. The guest wants to, you know, the guest's spending a lot of money, and they want their experience to be fabulous. And you know, yeah, like you're saying about the restaurant, that if they put on a dish, maybe it's not polished, maybe it's not, it hasn't been tasted and tried and tested. You know, some of the dishes here are tried and tested within an inch of their lives before they even get on the menu, and that's the experience that you're paying for. You know, I don't want to go to a restaurant and go, oh yeah, this dish went on this morning. Yeah, it's not that great. It's not that great, but the lamb's from next door. Well, yeah, okay, great, lovely lamb. Yeah. But it's a shame about the dish, eh? So yeah, I think there's a balance. I think there's a balance in there.
So one of the most sort of contentious issues at the moment facing the sort of the hospitality industry is no-shows. Mm-hmm. How do you sort of get around that as a business?
We take credit card details. We have set up reminders, so they're automated reminders for the guests, so they get emails reminding them. We're not super harsh. Obviously, as soon as you have a no-show, you'll get a phone call, and they say, "Oh, you know, the worst tragedy in the world has happened," and a family member, and all, you know, you see every excuse. But you just have to be sort of realistic with the situation. Fortunately, I say we get maybe 5 tables a week maximum.
And would you say most of those are because a secretary booked 5 for the boss, or is it because someone genuinely forgot, or how would you sort of categorise those if you ever get to find out?
Some bookings. That's the best one. The best one we had recently was someone booked online. So we had no part in the booking. They just booked online. They put all their details in. They put their email address in incorrectly.
Okay.
So obviously their confirmation email didn't go to the to them like 24 hours in advance or 48 hours, whatever it is. And then they no-showed. So we then contacted them and said, well, you know, are you coming? Oh no, I didn't get my confirmation email. It's like, well, you
put the email in.
You put the email in. No, that's an outrage. I can't get charged. What? And it's like, well, you know, we had no part of your booking, but you know, a table was reserved for you, and so yeah, you've got to be very careful. Sometimes even out of a bad situation, you've got the opportunity to make a good situation. Obviously, if you're rigid with your procedures sometimes, and there's no leniency in there, then you'll lose that customer for life. Yeah, you know, obviously they wanted to come to the restaurant. They didn't book
it on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. So they do want to experience your restaurant. Obviously there is a line. Yes, so you say secretaries. Yeah, a lot of our no-shows are due to that. But then also those costs are absorbed by the companies as well. Yeah. Some people are like, you know what? Yeah, I do understand. You know, who knows? They probably had 3 tables booked around town. You know,
it's whatever they fancy that.
Well, a special client coming in, sit down. They have the meeting in the morning, and where do you want to eat? Do you want to eat at Adams, Pennell's, Simpsons, Carter's, wherever? You know. I really fancy this one. Okay, we're there. And then the other 2 get the cancellation.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
There's not that much of that. You know, that's more of a London sort of.
That's where I got that example from, to be honest. Yeah. So. Yeah. But it's like, I personally, and I'm probably different, but if someone said to me, "Oh, it's £50 a head to book the table," I don't think I'd mind, because I genuinely am going to try and go to that restaurant. So, and if I'm not, I'm going to try and give them as much notice as possible. But I suppose if something really serious happened.
Oh, of course, yeah. I think things do happen, and you just need to take each one on its own merit.
So, what's it like being reviewed by reviewers? Because obviously not obviously everyone, but you've been reviewed by Andy Haler, Marino Laughlin, and the Olive Magazine, and I'm sure lots of local reviews as well. And nowadays everyone's a reviewer. So, what's it like reading about yourself? Being on, sort of. Yeah, give us an example of what it feels like.
I think also, like we mentioned at the beginning, TripAdvisor as well, like you're saying, everyone's a reviewer. Yes, there are thousands of reviews on there. It's one of the first things you do in the morning is just log in and see what people have said. It's hard, and sometimes and also because of the restaurant is very personal to me, my wife, it's our livelihood. It pays our mortgage. It's very important that everything's right. So it's just that constant. It's not a fear anymore. It's that constant concern that everything's got to be perfect, and obviously we instill that into the teams. Everyone has their own opinion, and sometimes you read something and someone says, "Oh yeah, the atmosphere is good, but I thought the music was a little bit too loud, or I didn't like something, or I thought this was," and you have to read it, you have to take it on board, and then you've got a choice about how to deal with it. You either fight, you either ignore, or you can deal with it, and sometimes we're not perfect, and when you read something, you go, you know what, they're right. That is an issue. We're not talking about serious issues. These are minor issues. Yeah. But some, like saying about tablecloths. Oh, I don't like tablecloths. Well, sorry, that's my decision. Yeah. And if it's earned me a bad review or something, well, that's a bit unfair.
You just knock that bit off.
Yeah, of course you do. And also reviewers as well. Reviewers have to write to make prose for people to read. Yes. They want it to be interesting. So, if they went, oh yes, this was good, 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 that makes for quite a boring read, doesn't it? True. And obviously these reviewers, and especially in the bigger papers, are talented writers. But they need to sell themselves and the story. So
that's what Andy Haler was saying. He says if you read his reviews, they're very sort of like, there's no prose, there's no story.
Correct. They're very matter of fact.
Yeah, it's just, and he's like that as a person anyway. Like it's just he's very clinical about his analysis, and he can remember most reviews as well. It's strange, but. He said, I'm not here to write a nice story. I'm not here to sell papers. Whereas if you look at like Marino Laughlin, for example, she's there to sort of sell papers. Yes. It's not her only job, obviously, but her review on your initial place was very good. She just didn't like the decor as such, but which is something you knew anyway because you were ready to move to a new place. So you sort of just knock that off, don't you? And think, would you at that point be like, well, I'm fairly happy with that?
To be honest, the review was a good review.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I'm not going to sit here and say I really enjoyed reading it. I thought that it was made for a slightly tough reading in areas. Also, we were a small startup business, and we could do with all the help that we could get. And obviously, we were in a massive newspaper with a half decent review. So, a bit of a double-edged sword. But looking back on it, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. It wasn't catastrophic. If anything, it's everything you knew. The food was great, atmosphere was great. It's just she didn't like the decor, and you knew that anyway because we were moving to a new place at some point. So, but I think it just is that when I read some of Andy Haler's reviews, they sort of, I don't know. Like one thing I asked him, like, do you think it is all right? Sort of, what is it? Does he sort of says like, oh, this wine costs £100, but
Yes.
it costs £50 at the shops. And you think, well, I don't know if that you should pry that much. I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. You know, we're open to scrutiny. I'm wine prices. I think what a lot of people forget is say a wine's on the menu for £100. So that £100 that they pay of their money, well, we obviously then have to take VAT off that immediately. So that's down to what 83. And then obviously there's the service element. There's there's a lot. Our wine lists are priced appropriately. We've just actually in the past few years we've invested quite a lot in wine. The reason why is because the wine that we've bought will increase in value. That will then make a really desirable list. So we've got a list full of fantastic chateaus and then winemakers and years. And then in the future, obviously we've bought it for X pound, and we'll sell it for X. So that'll stay constant, but the value of the product will increase. So when someone comes in, especially Andy Haler says, that wine was £70 on the list, but I can buy it in the shop for like 60. What fabulous value! And that's where I want to be. I want to have a cellar full of goodies that we purchased previously that then we can offer good value. Especially in Birmingham. Birmingham's a very hard. The pound in Birmingham has been earned in a very hard earned pound. People have had to work very hard for it, and we need to offer good value. This is our sort of foresight, especially Natasha's as well, is to if we do this, then we'll be able to in a few years we're looking to the future. So
talking of Birmingham for a moment, you've sort of embedded yourself in actually what is quite a competitive. It's on an upswing for definite. It's a very competitive sort of restaurant scene. I think there's 5 Michelin stars now, and there's probably a lot more rosettes, and there's a lot of people trying to get the stars. And also we see some closures, a little bit of closure, like Tom Aiken's sort of like mysteriously just closed the doors in, what was it called? Not the Ballroom, the other one was Mailbox. So what sort of challenges do you see locally? And and for example, that for me, I've never sort of got on with the Mailbox. I always thought it was a strange place for him to open, to be honest.
I'm not sure. It's the Birmingham food scene is incredible, and I think like when Glyn goes on Saturday Morning Kitchen, he doesn't shout about Purnell's, he shouts about Birmingham, which is incredible. It's all Birmingham. There's just a lot going on, and it's a fabulous.
For someone like him, that just shows that in that respect that he's not really out for himself. Although he'll benefit clearly, but he is literally trying to lift Birmingham, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's a very good friend of mine as well now, and he's it's the work that he does.
One thing he mentioned in an article recently was that there's just not enough customers to sort of fill weekday demand. How do you all get around that then? Like, not that you're doing something together, but again, does it just go back to great value, sort of big creative? If we could have a Saturday night every single service would be fabulous. But I think people dine differently throughout the week as well. I'd say a Friday night people drink more alcohol because they're not working the next day. It's not easy. It isn't easy, and there's not a massive amount of business. But we're okay. I say we've got our heads down and we're focusing on what we do. And also because of there are quite a lot of restaurants in town. People come for like gastronomic weekends, or they come for 3 or 4 days and they'll try Purnell's, or try us, and then they'll go off to somewhere else. And so it's just managing expectations and trying to give best value, and like you say, just doing everything that we can. So talking about, we've sort of skirted around it, but the Michelin Guide, I think it's something that we try to talk to sort of chefs at this level. We like to talk about that. Why would you say it's important to you? Like you obviously wanted it from an early age, and why would you say what is it that draws you to that?
I think the Michelin Star from a younger Adam, I just wanted a Michelin star. It was like the ultimate accolade. Now a Michelin star is an assessment of the restaurant, and it's almost like the marketing and advertising and telling customers what they're going to expect. You come to Adams, you're going to have a Michelin star product. Excuse me. So yeah, I think as long as the accolades are right for the product, that's the most important thing.
So was it hard gaining the star in the first year?
It was a focus, and yes, we worked tirelessly to try and produce the best possible food we could, which is, the star was almost like something that came along with what we were trying to do anyway. Having been in Scotland, had a Michelin star in Scotland, so I was known on the foodie Michelin circuit, as it were. Obviously, coming into Birmingham, no one knew who I was, so it was all a bit of a splash. Who's this Adam guy? Oh my God, he's got a star after 5 months, and all this sort of stuff. So our focus was very driven in regards to producing fab food. That's very...
So if we look at people like Andreas Antoner, Glimpanel, they were the people that have had it the longest, let's say, around here. Would they have been a bit like, oh, who's this upstart? Who do you think he is? Or is it a bit more like, go for it, mate?
So supportive.
Yeah.
And I'm so relieved.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a bit of, who is this Adam guy?
Yeah.
I'll come in. Let's see what you've got, as it were. But so supportive.
Yeah.
Andreas from day one. Contact and chat, offering if there's anything that you need. I know it's very hard getting up and running. So no, I'm very lucky.
Because I'm guessing in their mind, again, it's the whole Birmingham scene as opposed to that local thing, that local competitiveness, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
We've even got a WhatsApp group. It's yeah, and also they're all really nice guys.
How do you categorise your WhatsApp group? Is it 1 star, 2 star? You're not allowed in until you get a star. So, and how nervous do you get? This is something that I know the answer to it now, but do you get nervous, sort of waiting in anticipation? We mentioned that the Michelin Guide's out in about 10 days or so. So obviously there's a bit of, I'm guessing there's nervousness now at this point, or is it just like, what, it is what it is, or?
Yeah, there's all, it's always a concern.
Yeah.
It is always a concern, because it is important. I think I deal with it better now.
Yeah.
because I've been in the situation for a few years. But no, it's an important accolade. Like I said earlier, that it's a marketing tool to show people what style of restaurant that we are. We're a Michelin starred restaurant, so everyone's expectations are managed, and also price point is managed as well. Always a Michelin star restaurant, so it's going to be
expect it.
Yeah. So people aren't going to come in and go, oh God, that was expensive. But it's sort of that it gives a business that expectation, and also I say, does a Michelin star help the business? We don't it's hard to quantify. I prefer to have it than not.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, it's important. And the star belongs to Michelin. It's their star to award. When I'm dining out in other restaurants, we're sort of comparing. Well, we're 1 star, and Michelin said that was 2 star, and so on and so forth. So it's a guide for comparison.
What's it like when you eat out? Because then are you like a reviewer all of a sudden, because you're picking it apart and you're like, oh well, I would have done this way, or oh no, I love the way they do that. How does your wife sort of get annoyed?
No, she used to. I have got better at it.
Yeah.
I think, and I think I've changed, and sometimes when I was young, I used to taste every component on the plate. And, I think that was a bit salty or unseasoned, or
instead of just mixing.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I'm now I'm relaxing a little bit more, and you eat a dish and you go, you know what, that was bloody lovely.
Yeah,
that was a really, really good quality dish. And maybe the focal point is somewhere slightly different. And I think now for producing, I dine in Adams as much as I can recently, to try and taste the food, because some things you think are important in the kitchen are really not important when you sat there, and it's like, oh, actually, the mint, lamb and mint, that mint's really perfect. Whereas you're focusing on something or other else that's on the dish, and it's just like, well, no, you need to have that balance. So,
do you ever get to eat in both of your restaurants and just sit there unassumedly? Nobody really knows who you are, as in customers, kind of guest staff do. So just get to enjoy the moment and just sort of.
Not really.
You're always working.
Yeah. I think also I think it's very good for a chef to eat in their own restaurant, because you are analysing your product. If you're there screaming and shouting with a bottle of champagne, and that's not what you need to be doing. So of course it's work. It's very important. This is our livelihood. We need to make sure it's right.
And what sort of challenges have you seen going from a chef running a kitchen to a restaurateur running 2 restaurants, and presumably more in the future? What sort of challenges have you seen there?
I think it's where where you have to divide up your time to be able to deliver as much as you can. The teams across the restaurants, everyone's different. Everyone needs different things. Some people need stacks of support, and some people need none. And obviously you're interjecting with little bits of information or details or support, or which I find exciting, interesting. Obviously, running a business as well, and focusing on that sort of side of it. And like we said about looking at the product, and you can sometimes get really swamped in what you're doing, and you can't see the bigger picture. So Natasha is fabulous. She's phenomenal at that. And yeah, just analysing every day what's going on. I find it really exciting.
So, what about chef shortages? Because that's a discussion that comes up all the time at the moment within the industry. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you get around it if it's an issue?
I think there are so many restaurants now. So there are more restaurants, and even talking about chain restaurants as well. They're taking an element of personnel, whether they are the level of personnel that we would be taking. Obviously, it would be slightly different, but there are stacks of restaurants. There's more restaurants, so there are more jobs that need to be filled. In regards to the kitchens, it's if you've, as a head chef, as a leader in the kitchen, or even sous chef and the senior chefs, if you've got something to show the younger generation, they'll learn, they'll listen. And we put chefs in the kitchen that maybe don't have a glamorous CV, or that they haven't been at certain places, or maybe their training's been a bit average, but they come in for an interview and they say the right things. They're keen, they're enthusiastic, they want to learn. And just like me at Hamilton, I was a sponge. I was ready to go. I rocked out of school with a few GCSEs, not many, and then did a catering course at college, which was okay. Gave me a bit of a general overview of the restaurant industry, or the hospitality industry, and then I knew that I needed to, I wanted to be a chef, I secured a job at Hambleton and then got my head down and learned.
So for you, almost, if you see someone who doesn't have all the right CV as such, but they're hard workers, they really want to learn, you'd give that person a chance.
100%.
Yeah.
Sometimes even the person's there to be moulded.
Yeah.
And sometimes what's the saying? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Sometimes you need an element of experience in a kitchen. Yeah. The more senior end you need people that know what they're doing and have ideas and come in and overcome challenges and problems. And at the lower end, you need people that are just really, really keen to be able to push on and develop.
Yeah.
Which was me, and I worked ridiculously stupid hours. From early in the morning till even earlier in the morning the next day. But I was on it 100%. And yeah, maybe that's why I am where I am now.
Yeah.
But
I think that's important that people know that you didn't just wake up one day with a restaurant. You've grafted hard, And the other thing I think that's something that probably people don't see today. Really, maybe they think, oh, it's right for him or her. They've got a restaurant. But you've worked really hard.
I've been cooking for 18 years.
Yeah.
It's been a life's work. As I say, I fell in love with cooking at 18. I was cooking at home beforehand, but into a professional kitchen at 18, and never looked back. As I say, it's dedicated my whole life to it.
So, what do you think you'd do if you wasn't a chef?
I'd like to be a Formula One driver.
You seem a bit tall.
I was going to say I don't think I'll fit in.
Yeah.
I always used to say a lorry driver, but then when I learned they had to stick to 56 miles an hour, I thought, no, that's a bit boring. I don't know. Be a driver, just drive.
Get out on the road.
Yeah,
something
I love
that's
driving.
freeing.
Yeah.
And who would you say has been like an inspiration to you so far?
There's been various for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
For cooking, Aaron, started me off. Took me as a young lad and got me, taught me how to cook. From a business, look at Gordon Ramsay. People have mixed emotions about Gordon, but what a great businessman. He's done really well. And even Heston as well. It's just I appreciate them for what they've done, and in the early days, and TV chefs, Ainsley Harriott with Percy Pepper and Sally Soul. These, that's sort of where the industry was glamorized, which, I became a chef because I love cooking. I love eating and cooking. I think it's quite a big lad as well. So when I was at home, my mum couldn't cook enough food for me, so I had to cook it myself.
Yeah.
But
I think those guys that you mentioned made it a respectable career. Like, if I had to explain it, because I think before that you hear people that say, well, I went into being a chef because I was thick, or I didn't know how to read, or I was dyslexic, so what else was I going to do? But that's not the case anymore.
Oh gosh, no.
It's like no one does it because they have to. I think people genuinely do it because they want to now. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that is probably down to, like you say, a bit of Heston Blumenthal, who wasn't a classically trained chef. Gordon Ramsay, who was a classically trained chef. I think you see a lot of people like that have inspired others to get into it.
If you want to be successful in this industry, you need to be on your A game.
Yeah.
You can't
all the time, even when you're tired.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. And even more when you're tired, because that's where people will falter.
And even like we said earlier, and you probably have to be on your A game even when you're quiet, because when the restaurant's quiet, because that's when you need it. As hard as it is, as depressing as it is, when you've got no covers filled and you're just waiting for those customers to come in. It's one customer at a time. You're turning that business around, aren't you?
Yeah, so, definitely. Yeah.
And you've been there, so you know what that's like. So what would you say you like or dislike about the industry? So if we start with what you like.
I like the quirky, every day is different, changing all the time. It's an exciting industry. I don't want to use the word rock and roll, it's because that's not the way that I look at it. But it's ever changing, ever evolving. The people, the characters, the ups, the downs, the good things, the bad things.
Yeah.
It's just a fab, really exciting industry. It's not a desk job. It's not 9 to 5. It's it's just just love it.
And what do you dislike, do you think?
Not a lot, really.
Not a lot. That's good.
No,
No?
I don't know. No.
What ingredient do you dislike the most?
Kiwi.
Oh, yes, you said. I remembered. I forgot to write that down.
Kiwi. What?
Yeah.
What on earth is the point of kiwi? It's brown and furry, then green in the inside. It doesn't taste of anything, and it's got seeds in it.
It's posh and exotic, isn't it?
Is it? Might be exotic, but it's. And I'm sure someone will be able to find me a really nice kiwi, but no, I just
You've not come across one yet.
No, I don't understand it.
You've not managed to make anything out of it and think, oh, that was decent.
Well, no, but I did have. I think someone made a kiwi sorbet. It just tasted of nothing, so that sort of.
Wouldn't it be quite like a sharpness to it? Because kiwi can be quite. I don't know. It's got that weird like sharpness, like. Yeah, but if you don't like
it, it's crap.
It's crap. we did a podcast a few months ago with a chap that's the head chef, executive chef at Bistro Bagatelle, and he says, Stell, he goes, I hate bananas.
Really?
He goes, why? Because they're disgusting. Look at them. He goes, they're phallic. He goes, I'm just like laughing my head off. He goes, bananas are horrible. Why do people like bananas? But yeah, because they're mushy, they're overly sweet. But yeah, kiwis are weird as well, actually. Yeah, kiwis are just very odd. But what's your favourite British ingredient?
Asparagus.
Yeah, when it's seasoned, of course. Yeah,
it's incredible. It just delivers on every single level, and when it's like beautifully fresh, you know, when it's eaten within hours of it being picked. I like new potatoes as well. My dad had an allotment, he still has, and so we used to have runner beans, broad beans, potatoes. We had everything, you know, carrots. I'm not saying I grew up on baby carrots, but they were just like properly, you know. And I think where that sort of really helped with my understanding of food and understanding of flavours, because you know you can even go into a posh supermarket and buy the finest carrots. They don't taste anything like the carrot that you pull out of the ground. So it's I'm going to stick with asparagus. It's incredible.
And what would you say your favourite food is? Like, you know, like is there something that your go-to meal, your comfort meal, or just, you know, at a special time, or even when you just feel knackered? What would you say?
I've got a really bad thing at the moment for spice. I'm really seeking spice.
Yeah.
Or it's curries, Chinese, Thai. You know, eating a lot of stir fries, and you know, just sort of fresh, hot, sweet, sour.
Flavors,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Lots of umami.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, my training was classical, and as I've developed my food, obviously the Asian sort of influences have come in, and also learning about these ingredients, you know, fish sauces and things like that. It's really really interesting. But no, I'm all about a nice.
Well, at least you're in Birmingham, so you've got lots of choice.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Not a lot of great choice though. I think there's a lot of there's quantity of Indian restaurants, or Indian. I was thinking, you know, Asian, let's say, but not a lot of great ones. I don't think.
Yeah, I think. You know, I used to live just the other side of the Baltic Triangle, so every night I used to drive through.
Yeah.
Drive through Spark Hill, Sparkbrook. It's beautiful smells.
Yeah.
And I think they are. I think the style of food. You know, when you're looking at Indian cuisine, lots of the traditional dishes, all meat on the bone. Majority of it's vegetarian anyway, and like stewed flavors. The you know, the curries that you get from the takeaway, they're all quite fresh.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not the sort of style of Indian food that you'll see in some of these restaurants. You know, the restaurants aren't sort of famed, or they're out on the main stage, but when you look in the door, they're packed full of Asian families. So,
yeah.
You know, it's
and that's where you know it's a good one.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, what would your favourite book be?
There's two. The Gordon Ramsay 3-star book, bit of an iconic book, and save up to buy it.
It's the one that's in the grey box, isn't
That's
it?
the right, yeah.
White book,
yeah. And some of the dishes, you know, some dishes are quite. Looking at it now, it's quite traditional, but it was just proper cooking, you know, and the dishes were exciting and you know, taking on a new sort of trend, but still staying very well rooted. Another one's Pier restaurant in Australia. beautiful, fresh, light. You know, it's got like a green cup on the front. I haven't read it for years now, but it's just sort of. I was trying to, you know, for my style, trying to take on a few that really lightness and like a real like an elegant touch to my food. So, but I've got thousands of books.
Yeah, I could imagine.
I've got way too many books.
Well, you can never have too many as a chef, can you?
No, that's right. I just keep on getting told off by my wife when I buy a new book.
If it wasn't that, it'd be something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, last question, and we're going to finish here. So, what does the future hold for Adams? And obviously, the Adams family, let's say.
Yeah. More of the same. We're constantly evolving. Adams, changing, moving forward. Trying to make subtle tweaks and subtle, you know, but always wanting to be moving forward, doing something. The quality of the product we are assessing all the time and trying to make it as good as possible. So, Oyster Club needs, we're pushing that hard. What are we, 5 months in, nearly 6 months.
Still a baby then.
Yeah, it is. And I think we have been very hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, we had very high expectations of it. So yeah, heads down, working. You know, we're happy with the product. We're happy with the staff. We're happy with the fit out of food. It just needs to. You know, it needs work. You know, it needs
become more established.
Yeah, exactly.
So more evolution, not revolution.
Yeah, and then, you know, will we do something else? Well, possibly. I think restaurant-wise, you know, the two restaurants that we've done, we're very satisfied with the market in Birmingham. So I don't know. We are, you know, whenever I'm sat in the car with Natasha, we're always talking about everything. You know, it's always it's not like, oh well, we've opened 2 restaurants now, and we'll just sit our ass and not do anything. No, that's far from it. So yeah, who knows? Who knows where we'll pop up?
Well, keep me informed, won't you?
Of course.
Adam, thank you for your time, mate, and I'll let you go because it is going to be a busy Friday for you, no doubt. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.